Want to achieve network marketing success? Then join the right company. Hello, and welcome to Leave Nothing to Chance, hosted by networking marketing giant John Solleder. Learn everything you need to know about the network marketing space from somebody who's actually done it. Join us every week for front row seats as we feature some of the finest and most successful personalities in network marketing. Leave nothing to chance. Join us now.
Well, hello, everybody, and this is going to be a great interview. And I was just telling our guest, Bruce Sulzberg, that it's my first time actually interviewing a legitimate, real artist. I haven't had any fake artists either. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but Bruce, I've seen your work. I was telling Bruce I've seen his work in California, and I think in Hawaii and some other places. And let me tell you, everybody, a little bit about Bruce. Bruce is a renowned artist and visionary. He's spent over 35 years redefining the art world with his innovative 3D dimensional fine art creations, captivating fans and collectors around the globe. He's a graduate of San Diego State University. He began his journey in the film industry by transitioning to roles as an art and creative director, where he reignited his passion for fine art. Sulzberg's signature three-dimensional fine art on multiple layers of glass captures breathtaking ocean views and immortal cultural icons from legendary athletes like Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, Rafael Nadal, Formula One, Dirk Nowitzki, DMX, Brett Favre, Mario Lemieux, Joel Embiid, James Harden, and many, many others. Through his brand SSMFA, he collaborates with top brands by blending art with powerful storytelling and marketing strategies. His co-branded luxury products offer fans and collectors an exclusive experience that fuses the allure of iconic figures with the sophistication of fine art. I always saw art in multiple dimensions, but struggled to convey that vision until I began experimenting with how an image could be layered on glass to form a single, unified painting. This technique became the perfect medium for me to express the complexity of what I envisioned in my mind, allowing me to show the world a new perspective on art, one that transcends traditional definitions and continually reinvents itself. As he's mastered the boundaries of painting on glass, he began to see images in ways that he had never seen before. Today, through all his experiences with this unique method, he feels that he can't portray in a way that allows everyone to see the world as I do through dimensions. But he's going to try anyway and to help us all see through these dimensions. And I've looked at one of these this morning, Bruce, that just is astounding with the great Rafa Nadal. And what you did with this is amazing, to say the least. And
Thank you.
I'm a big fan. Now let me just tell you, I got trouble putting together a stick figure. So when we talk art, I've got a tremendous respect for anybody who can do what you've done. So well, let's start at the top. So a young Bruce decides, I want to be an artist. How did
it goes a little deeper than that. So my dad actually was a very, very talented artist in his own right when he was young. He never followed that path. He went strictly business when he was in college. He was a double major in business and engineering, but he would paint at night when I was a kid and just for fun. But he had a passion for art in a different way that came in later in life. But when I was born, they realized I was an art prodigy probably by the age of 5. That I was drawing at such a young age. I think the first thing I ever drew, I was 1 year old, and which is, when you think about that, is crazy. But before I knew it, my parents had me in very special art classes. I want to call it maybe 8 years old, and I think everyone, including myself, always knew I was going to be an artist one day. Didn't know how that was going to shake up or shake out in terms of a career or anything like that. And it's been an interesting web of a path to get here through a few industries, from graphic design, the entertainment industry, and the film business, and eventually as a full-time pro in the fine arts.
So let's talk a little bit about what you've created, because you're not only an artist, but you've also created your own genre, if you will, with the glass work. So how did that, is that something you tripped across, or is that something that you just said, what if? I mean, how did that all come about?
It's actually a great story. So back in the day, and I'm aging myself a bit, of course, but back in 1995, the biggest art show you could ever do in the world was the Art Expo in New York. And it was at the Jacob Javits. It was the size of a football field. Every famous artist on the planet was there having a booth. All the famous publishers were there. That was back in the day of art publishers, of course. There really aren't any anymore for quite some time. But my dad, my dad who got out of big business as an executive, always wanted to own his own fine art gallery, and he took a shot at it. Borrowed 50,000 from one of his best friends, opened an art gallery, and the rest was history for 20 years. And I'll go back into that story another time. But to go into, at that time in '95, my dad said, you know, if you want to be a real artist, you've got to exhibit at the Art Expo. And at that time, they had a new segment inside the expo where you didn't just pay for a booth, you had a jury in for, which is something for young, new, exciting artists. And what you did is you had to submit about 20 different slides of art. And if you got in, you paid a certain amount of price and you shared a booth with another young burgeoning artist. So I did. I juried in and got in and went there for 5 days for the Jacob. That was my first experience with it. My parents used to go there for the art gallery, so they knew all about it. I went there with my mom and at the time my fiance, and her name Roseanne Scher. And basically it was the very end of the show. I had brought 12 paintings on canvas, all abstract, which are my favorites. I didn't sell a damn painting. I mean, I was just crushed that I didn't sell anything. And I just told everyone, I want to walk the show. I want to see what's going on and what's around. And I did. And as I was walking down the aisles and up and down them, and I'm seeing all these famous artists and publishers, the one thing I did realize was everything was flat. Everything was two-dimensional on paper or canvas in terms of art. I'm not talking sculpture, of course. And it literally just popped in my head, if I'm going to be successful, I didn't say famous, I said successful. I have to come up with something nobody else has done. And it literally just clicked in my head, just like that, paint on layers of glass, paint on plexiglass. So I went, as soon as we were done with we got back to San Francisco, East Bay, where I was growing up and working in my dad's gallery. And basically I grabbed a bunch of glass and started taking my abstract paintings that were on canvas and reforming them in 3 dimensions on layers of glass, building them together with my dad, figuring out how that worked, put him in his gallery as a test, and they just flew off the shelves, so to speak. And the rest was history. That's how it started.
Interesting. So it was kind of like to me, that would be obvious, but nobody ever did that till you did it.
You know, I mean, like I can never sit here and say no one had ever done it before. I had never seen it. It's just something that popped in my head. To this day, I've now been doing it for now 28 years. I'm painting on layers of glass. So that's interesting to me. Well, actually, no, we're now going to 25. I started in '95. We're at 30. So 30 years of painting on glass. I haven't seen it. Now, it's not saying that it isn't somewhere. It's a big world, but I haven't seen it. It's very hard to copy me because I paint photorealistic. I paint with the brush is the size of a pinhead. And so I can only do X amount of paintings per year. So we're very careful of what clients we pick and who I paint, including if it is a commission. I don't do as many commissions anymore because of so many contracts we do, but we try to do different things. I'm an artist that can paint anything. So I don't stick to one subject. What I do is stick to the format of layers of glass.
Yeah, you just said something that struck a nerve. So you said that this is the size of a pinhead that you're using to do this?
The paintbrush, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So you have the same nerve aptitude as a fine surgeon does.
Yes, yeah, I am definitely somebody that is into detail. Let's put it that way. So when it comes to my artwork, yeah, I am a perfectionist. It has to be that way. The problem with me is I can look at anything and I can see 100 colors. So I've become a master mixologist in terms of color. And the reason for that is back when I started painting on this, I'm working acrylic on acrylic. So acrylic paint isn't like oil paint. You can mix oil paint, and because it's oil-based, it can last for a while. It won't dry out. Acrylic paint dries out instantaneously within hours if you leave it uncovered. So every morning I used to have to remix colors and start all over. My first hour to 2 hours was remixing the same colors to match what I was painting the day before, until I figured out a system how to keep it more wet and translucent for at least a couple of weeks, 2 weeks if I'm lucky. But yeah, it's a very unique process that I have.
So you've done a lot of famous people. I mean, we named some of them a little bit in your bio a minute ago. I mean, the most famous being Muhammad Ali, obviously, probably
Yeah.
at one time the most recognized person in the world. But I want to talk a little bit about relationships. So we'll come back to the athletes themselves, but how do you create those relationships with agents or significant others or whoever to get to that primary person that you want to do the artwork on?
Well, I'll tell two stories to start it, how I built my career. One is my very first contract I got, which was in 2013 with Scott Boras. Anyone who knows anything about baseball
Yep.
or agents in sports knows who Scott Boras is. He's one of the most famous agents on the planet. And my business partner got me a meeting to go pitch to two of their agents at their corporate office back in 2013. At that time, I brought in just one painting, and it was the original LeBron James painting I had done. They had given me 30 minutes to show them what I wanted to do. And basically, my idea was, hey, this is what I do for a living. I want to take this into professional sports, and I'd like to paint some of your clients and then do reproduction limited edition runs. And, you know, we came up with an entire plan around it. So that 30 minutes turned into about 3.5 hours, where it was two agents, and then I was in the round table room in front of pretty much every agent in the building. And at the very end of the meeting, they basically printed out their client list, put it in front of me, and said, "Who do you want?"
Wow.
At that time, at 2013, and baseball was humming then. Baseball was so popular. I picked Prince Fielder, who had just come off of signing a $250 million contract. He was a rock star at that time. I picked Prince Fielder, Steven Strasburg, who was becoming the rookie sensation. And I was there for his opening day, and they said there was the same amount of media there for Super Bowl for his opening day pitching. And I also picked, who had just gotten signed, Bryce Harper, he'll be in the Hall of Fame. And I picked Robinson Cano and Jacoby Ellsbury. And those were my first five, and I signed them all to contracts. And I started with Prince Fielder. And so that was my first experience of working with agents, and I did it all by myself and getting these contracts. So,
Well, okay, let me ask the obvious question. So how difficult is that when you're dealing with, because you're an artist on the one hand, on the other hand, you're in business for yourself. So how do you make that bridge where you go, okay, you take the artist hat off for a minute and go, man, I really want to paint this guy or this gal, who's iconic in whatever it is that they do. But there's a business side to this, obviously. How do you transition that? And what are some of the things that you've learned that have helped you to do that may help some of our listeners in relationships that they have that might be, albeit a little difficult at times when you deal with ego and money and all the other things that you have to deal with?
The secret of my success is actually my father. He owning a very successful fine art gallery. So I had the art part down. I didn't have to worry about that. But my dad, who, back in 95 had told me, go to the art expo. He was the one that really over 15 years sat me down and taught me the business world of fine art. So it was like going back to school, if that makes sense. This is something you don't learn in college. I'll be honest with you. Learning how to do this kind of business with very famous athletes, famous agents, the kind of branding and licensing it takes to get these and procreate these deals in terms of how you get them. And I don't think you really learn that unless you're in the trenches, if that makes sense. You're going to stub your toe a little bit here and there, and you're going to learn your way. And I'm sure some of the contracts I signed probably weren't so beneficial for me, but they got me in the door. And I bumped my head a few times. I'm not going to lie to you on that, John. But the reality is that my dad taught me the business world, and it really did help. So I do wear both sides, the artist side and the businessman side. And that's really helped me in building my career. And now, of course, with the new company of Luxicon, with my new business partner, Charnel Setzer, it's kind of what drew her to me, is that I had both sides behind me.
So talk about that. So this is a new, obviously you guys know each other a while, but new business relationship. What are you guys doing with that? What's the intended goal?
So basically what we did was Charnel Setzer, who's my business partner in Luxicon, that's our new brand. What we did is we took her 20+ career of doing immersive and events all over the world. She's done over 500 events and big brands and everything, and quite an impressive career in itself. And then we took my 27 years of being in the fine art space and what I've built with licensing and athletes and all the other contracts that I've done, and we merged the two together. And that became Luxicon. And basically Luxicon stands for luxury and icon merged together, because I paint icons and my products are luxury products. So we now took a beast of two different sides of the world in the entertainment space and merged it into one. And I think the excitement around it is because we're being thrown contracts that are unbelievable right now because of what we've built apart and now what we are building together.
Beautiful, beautiful. And making relationships work, right? So we talked about that a little bit with the agents and all of that. Okay. So how do you make all that work? Obviously, you're coming from one place, she's coming from another place. They're both unique places with very big scale. But how do you put that together and make it work? What's the, we know what the goal is, right? But what's the strategy and tactic to roll that out so that the consumer, a guy like me or a guy like our friend Chris or somebody else says, hey, this is really cool what these guys are doing. Let me tell my friends about this.
Really, what Luxicon is becoming, it's a way to redefine how art connects with audiences. And that's through immersive experiences, as well as selling fine art, as well as selling the brand, and as well as selling whoever that client is. So basically, it's this entire package coming together. And the way that I can explain it best is how I met her, which was about a month before. In 2023, I was the official Formula One artist for Red Bull, working with their second team, 𝐷𝐼𝐼, which is now a different, they renamed it after the 2023 season. But I, for a year, was the official artist. And we did 2 unveilings, one at Miami F1, and then the big granddaddy Las Vegas F1, the inaugural one, where I had to do a painting of what the strip was going to look like as a real race. So I had to imagine what that was before the race, do a painting of it, of the drivers on the race in the streets. And I met Shar about, we call her Shar, by the way. I met her about 2 months prior to the event. I had hired a company to do a launch event with 𝐷𝐼𝐼 and Red Bull in front of the fans, a huge immersive experience here at Illuminarium, which is around Area 15 here in Las Vegas.
Right.
Really cool space. And basically we had hundreds of fans there. NBC News was there live to interview me and film it. And all the fans, the drivers were there, the teams there. The day before, the people I brought in to do it, they basically got another gig and they kind of just went and did their own thing. And Shar came in at the last second. I had only met her once. She asked if she could take over right in front of the team president for 𝐷𝐼𝐼 and their whole staff as we're going through pre-launch, 8 hours before. She took over and nailed it in terms of a massive successful event in front of all these people and the media. And we sold the original painting within 3 minutes. We didn't even announce that it was for sale. And it was just such an amazing experience that the day after that, I realized that I found someone that I could work with for the rest of my career. And then we went to a private event for another event for Formula One, and we sat down. And really, the rest is history. Luxicon then became what it was about 6 months later, and we spent the last 6 months building what it is. And now we're coming out of the gates with the painting behind me, which is the DMX tribute painting.
So tell us about the painting a little bit.
I was, during Formula One, believe it or not, I was approached by a producer that had worked with DMX on a song, and they were doing a massive event here in Vegas. Asked me if I would do a painting of DMX and do it, and have it auctioned off at this event. And it was going to be an event with a lot of very, very famous hip hop artists. And at the time I said no, because I was too busy with Formula One. They came back to me after Formula One and I said, there's something there. And they showed me an idea of the photo. It was this photo, but I changed it. And I kind of connected to it in a way because I thought it was beautiful. I had never done a painting that was black and white in my career. And I'd never done a portrait in my style on glass. I'd done plenty of portraits as a kid growing up in high school and college and things like that, but never since I had really gone professional as a fine artist. And it kind of spoke to me. So I wound up starting the painting, realized we had something more than just doing it as an auction piece. So I kind of decided to not do the auction. Now, strange enough, I found out later on that the event never even happened. So it was like someone was looking after me. And I went to my whole team and I said, I think we got something here. Let's do something more with this piece. Let's go talk to the DMX estate. Let's go talk to a charity that's involved with DMX in his past. Let's bring in some very successful hip hop artists that were a part of his career, like Redman and Method Man and Nas and Swiss Beats. And let's do a partnership with them. And let's do a world tour with the painting. And that's what this has become, is we're doing a world tour with this painting with very famous hip hop artists that are going to sign the original They each get their own edition of like 50 to 100 that they're signing of DMX. And it's going to be in different cities from America to potentially Paris and Switzerland.
Wow. Wow. So it's amazing.
And there's always a charity component to what we do. So, and I learned this back working with Major League Baseball and then with Rafael Nadal, which is a percentage of every painting I sell goes to a charity that's picked by our client. And so that way we're giving back in a way that a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do that.
Well, great, great. So tell me about the Nadal work. He's an interesting guy. I'm not a huge tennis fan.
Yeah.
But I admire the athletes. I mean, Nadal and Djokovic. I mean, and somebody else going back, Federer, of course, in the modern era, going back to when we were young, when I was young anyway. I'm probably a lot older than you, Bruce, but you know, Jimmy Connors and Martina. You know, I mean, just such stellar athletes, and like never having played, like I played tennis fooling around, but I mean, never having played tennis serious. I look at what they do sometimes, like I'm a native New Yorker. So I look at the US Open. I know what the weather's like in New York around Labor Day. Hot, humid, cloudy. Oh, yeah. Just if you're sitting outside, right? These guys are out there sometimes 4 hours in the sunlight, hitting the ball 100+ miles an hour. I mean, the athleticism in these athletes is unbelievable. I mean, I think it's some of the world's greatest athletes, frankly, but that's, you know, I don't want to digress into the sport so much, but tell us about that and how did that relationship happen? And, you know, tell us about the work a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a tennis player, so I played in high school and in college, and I still train to this day. I still train 2-3 hours a day when I can. Actually just played 3 years ago. And it's a big part of my life, tennis, and it was a big part of my son. My son started at 8, and he was a phenom and got a college scholarship to play in college, and then taught at John McEnroe's Academy when he got out of college and until he went to grad school. So tennis is a big part of my life. And I was doing a tournament in Washington, D.C. as a sponsor. It's the City Open. It's on the leg of the U.S. Open tennis circuit in the summer leading into the U.S. Open. And it was the first time I did it in Washington back in the day. And I met a gentleman there that did business with all of the famous tennis players. And we sat down and he said, you know, I can introduce you. Who would you like to do a painting of? I hadn't done a tennis player yet, but I was jonesing to do one for obvious reasons. It's my favorite sport. And I didn't even blink. I go, Rafa, he's my favorite tennis player. He has been my favorite tennis player growing up was McEnroe and then Andre Agassi. I have painted Andre Agassi and gave him the painting in person. I did a painting of him and Steffi Graf and gave it to them. So that was my first tennis painting I did back in the day. But Nadal was one that I really wanted to paint. I just enjoy him as a tennis player, a big fan. And so he said, I can get you an introduction to his business manager, Carlos Costa. So he set up a phone call for me and Carlos, and it's a great story, actually. And I wish we had filmed it, if you want my honest opinion, John. And I called him up and I basically said, Carlos, I know you don't know me from a hole in the wall. And I said, there's no way for me. And by the way, this is 2014. There's only Facebook, by the way, really in 2014. And there's no Zooms. So you can't show anybody anything over a phone call at all. And so basically I said, I know you don't know me from a hole in the wall. Would you grant me 30 minutes if I flew from Las Vegas to Spain to show you what I'd like to do for Rafa? And he basically said, you want to fly from America to Barcelona for 30 minutes of my time? And I said, yeah. And he said, it's your dime. I'll give you 30 minutes. So I went to my investors and I said, all right, this is going to cost about $20,000-$25,000 for a shot in the dark. Are you willing to let me do this? And they did. And my one big investor, shout out to Andrea Harris. And I basically flew to Spain with my CEO. I put a crate that is probably about 7 feet tall and 3 feet wide. I had the original LeBron James. I had the original Muhammad Ali, and I put together an entire package, and I put together examples of what Rafa's painting would look like and easels and shipped it all over to Spain. Anyone knows you ship a big crate from here to Spain, you got to go through all kinds of hell to get it there and import stuff. And you know how that goes. And so we go there. It takes 2 days to get there. We haven't slept. We get to the hotel and the meeting's in 3 hours. My crate hasn't arrived. Crate literally gets there 30 minutes before the meeting. We have to get everything out of the crate into 2 taxis to somehow get to Carlos's office to do the pitch. We get there literally about 30 seconds late. We get to his office, the elevator's not working, and we have to bring all this stuff upstairs to his office. And it's a lot of stuff. And he comes out to greet us, and he sees us piling out of these taxis with all this stuff, and he starts laughing. He goes, "Really? Okay. All right, we go, I know, I get it. It's a lot of stuff. Just give us a few minutes to set up." And then he finally comes in. That 30 turned into, I want to call it maybe 2.5 hours. And at the end of that meeting, he said, "Can I keep these paintings to show Rafa?" Well, that's my original Muhammad Ali and original LeBron James. I said no. But I was smart. I knew the tennis calendar. I knew Rafa was in Spain. I didn't know where. I knew he lived in Mallorca. This meeting was in Barcelona, right off the coast of it. And I said, "Carlos, I said, we're here for 5 more days. If you can give me 5 minutes, it'd be an honor to show Rafa the paintings, and if you can give that to me." He says, "Un momento." He goes back to his office, comes back 15 minutes later. He says, this is a Thursday, by the way, Thursday morning. He said, "If you could be in Madrid at 8 p.m. at this hotel, I'll give you 5 minutes with Rafa." I didn't even blink. I put my hand down and I shook his hand. I said, "Deal." That cost $5,000 more because we were supposed to fly out Sunday night. And we had to figure out how to get all the stuff from Barcelona to Madrid. Wasn't going on a plane, I can tell you that. And we finally had to take a train. You know, I know this is a long story, but it's hysterical. We had to take a train with everything to get to, to Madrid. So I get to this hotel. I booked the hotel. I book a suite so that Rafa can come in with his people and be comfortable and not be in a hotel room or something like that. We wouldn't have time to talk to the hotel and set up a banquet room or anything like that. We get there and we try to get there. We can't get on the train. They won't let us on the train with all our stuff. No one speaking English. I become the crazy damn American screaming at the top of my lungs. "You're letting us on this train. I don't give a, you know what? You got to let us on this train. It's the most important meeting of my career." He won't let us in because of the stuff. He's like, no, won't fit. He's saying all our stuff won't fit on the train. We finally get through the security because they're like, my CEO, Steve Mann, is like, "We're going to jail." We're going to jail. They're going to arrest us because I'm throwing, and I'm the most laid back person on the planet, so I'm way out of character. And the reality was, but I knew how important it was to get there. And if we missed this train, we missed the meeting. That's how close it was. So he finally just has enough of me, and he just lets us get through. We're throwing the paintings and the easels and our luggage on the train because it's one of those trains. If it leaves at 2, it leaves at 2. There's no kind of wiggle room. We literally get on the train and the doors close right behind us as we get on the train. And we get on the train and we're sweating to death and we go put stuff. There's so much space for our stuff. It's stupid. Steve turns to the guy actually is on the train. He turns to the guy and he goes like this, like, "I think there's enough room for our stuff." And the guy just goes, and walks away. So, it was really, it's a story. Then we get to the hotel, we get set up. They finally come into the meeting, 8 on the dot. They had a meeting after us, so they're all in suits. Those 5 minutes, I want to call it, turned into 30. And when I showed them the LeBron James painting, Rafa got immediately off the couch, big smile on his. He walked all the way around the painting. He couldn't, he was just trying to figure out how the hell did this. You never see anything like it, right? And then they started speaking Spanish for I don't know how many minutes in a row. I don't know what's being said. I'm just quiet. And wound up asking questions. It was an amazing meeting. They leave. I get a text from the manager 3 minutes later. He said, "We're in. We'll talk contract later." And the rest was history.
God, wow.
And that was a gamble. That was a huge gamble at that point in my career in 2014. I mean, that's a big gamble for 30 minutes.
Well, it's you go back to that Robert Frost poem, right? "Two rows diverge in the woods." I mean, what if you said, "You know what? We're not going to make the train. Let's just go eat some nice Spanish food, have a nice night, eat a glass of wine and forget about it." And nice idea, but the perseverance was a game changer. I mean, look at what that's now done, for your career. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, you go from Major League Baseball to Rafael Nadal, and the Rafael Nadal, which was a 2-year contract, wound up being 10 years. And so, just till 2024. And it's really was a big blessing in my career. I probably don't get Formula One if I didn't do Rafa. And, Muhammad Ali was before all that. And all the other people that I painted from, I even forgot that I painted Brett Favre and Reggie White and all the other people. I've painted Michael Jordan and Dirk Nowitzki and, John Elway. And you kind of look at all these iconic figures that I did. And John Elway was the first painting I ever did in sports as a test to bring to the Art Expo in '97 to see if this was going to even work. So it's been a unique experience, I will say.
Is it hard? This is a stupid question. This is a non-artist question. As I told you earlier, Bruce, like I got trouble with stick figures. So, but okay, so you take a guy like Dirk who's 7 foot tall, as opposed to an athlete maybe like Ali was probably what, 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah, yeah.
Is it more difficult in a bigger person to create art or a smaller person, or is it really not matter?
No, there's no dumb question. I'm a big believer there's no dumb questions at all. I ask the questions. No, it's really not, because it's really just about the photo that I select. And that's how I work. I work straight from a photo. For example, with Rafa, once we had the contract done, what I did is when I will go do the homework and find photos I think that will be a legendary, iconic painting. And then what I do is I'll send all of those photos to the client. In this case, it was Rafa and his manager. And then Rafa himself handpicked the one. So I'm pretty sure. So I sent them 7. He picked the one that became the painting. But I'm sure that, like, I know for a fact, and I'll lead them down the road, if that makes sense. In this case, I know all 7 of them would have been a great painting. So
let me ask you this, because so many people that I interview, like yourself, myself, and others, were athletes at different levels. I mean, obviously we didn't do any of this stuff for a living, right? But we did it, serious, right? How did tennis and the discipline that you learned from a sport like that, how has that helped you in both your business career and really in your business career, to have the different disciplines that you have? How's that helped?
a tremendous amount. I mean, and actually I started being an athlete at a very young age, and my first sport was baseball. I played baseball for 10 years. And I was a pitcher, and I made the all-star team. And, I was a pitcher and a third baseman and a shortstop and a second baseman. And I loved baseball. It was really my first love. And then I was also a basketball player. I loved playing basketball. My goal when I lived in North Carolina before moving to California was to go play for Dean Smith and be a Tar Heel. That was my dream as a kid. But when you stop growing at 5'8", that dream kind of goes down the, what, there's not many Spud Webbs in the world that, got that dream at 5'8". But, it was baseball and basketball, and I learned discipline from both sides of that, and then became tennis later in life. And when I finally got a pro coach that played pro tennis and joined his elite academy, that strict discipline, really, especially in tennis, taught me a lot, because it was strict. The thing is, it's such a hard sport. I don't think people realize how hard a sport tennis is compared to other sports. The hand-eye, if you think about it, the hand-eye of hitting a baseball, right? And I always equate it to, you're a successful baseball player hitting 300, which means you fail 7 out of 10 times, right? And that's crazy when you really put that stat out there. That to me is the craziest stat in all sports. I'm not a golfer, but I'm sure there's some similarities to golf in that. And, because golf is pretty impressive to me, how amazing they can do it to hit a ball into a hole that small. But I do think that sports teaches you a lot of things. I have seen not only what it helped me with, but with my son. I have found that with him as being a dad and watching him be a very serious athlete from 8 years old through college, it taught him a lot of structure. And you find that the kids, they don't get in as much trouble, if that makes sense, right? They've got this tunnel vision of sport where they don't go off the rails a little bit. And I would say that same thing happened for me, that you then can take into business. And I will say that because I've always loved sports and followed them, when I would go into these meetings with these people, for example, the Boris meeting in 2013, when I went there and they started talking to me about all their clients, well, not only did I know who every one of them was, I could quote you what position they played, their batting average, how well they were, whatever. And they were stunned because like, you're an artist, right? I go, yeah, but I'm also an athlete. So it really has helped me tremendously in my career.
Yeah, it's amazing because the discipline. It's funny. I mean, I've like yourself. I mean, I've met a lot of professional athletes, But then I've met a lot of business people that are successful, and then all of a sudden you start talking to them, and if they played elite tennis or they played elite golf or they played, a lot of guys did what I did, wrestling or martial arts, et cetera, et cetera. And then all of a sudden they're successful in something else. I'm going, you know what? There's a parallel here, because even like you refer to your son, that discipline becomes habit forming, right? An athlete knows I can't go to bed at midnight and perform the next morning. I got to get my rest. Well, in business, you got to get your rest. In art, you got to get your rest, right? When you're dealing with people, you got to get your rest so you're not short-tempered and you answer the question, and somebody says, well, what's wrong with that guy? And so it is amazing. But this has been a lot of fun. So tell me now, we're starting 2025. Like, this interview will air sometime the beginning of January, next couple of weeks. What's your goal for this year? What do you got planned? Sounds like you got a lot planned, frankly, but give us a couple of things you got planned here.
Yeah, we're really excited about this. I'm more excited about this year than probably any year I've ever been on this planet, which is we are working on multiple deals as we speak right now. And DMX, of course, is project number one, with all the very successful hip hop artists that we discussed already and that we're talking to and hoping to be a part of this project. We're working on, with my one agent at Trey Image, Charles Singleton. He's working on an upper deck deal with us. And the first painting I'll be doing with them is Wayne Gretzky. And they obviously have very iconic goats under their label that hopefully we will be painting as well, such as Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, and several others. Marvel Studios is one of their clients, which would be really cool. We're working on a deal right now with YDB, who is Young Dirty Bastard, who is Old Dirty Bastard, son of Wu-Tang Clan. We're talking with their management, Danny Hamilton. We're putting a deal together with them to do iconic paintings of them, and which is really, really cool in the hip hop industry. We're working on a trading card platform that's going to be three-dimensional to encompass artists from around the globe in terms of music. Also looking on putting a deal right now together with the Grand Ole Opry for us to be one of the official artists for the 100-year anniversary of the Grand Ole Opry. So we've been in discussions with that now for about 5-6 months, and that one would be an incredible honor. And we're looking to shoot out of the gates on that one as well. And yeah, we've got a couple other sports athletes. We actually were on calls this morning about people asking me about some things we're doing, and we're working on an EDM, electronic dance music, with all their legends and iconic DJs. We're working on a deal with multiple ones of those. So a lot of very unique projects out there.
So you got nothing going on next year?
Yeah.
You don't sound busy at all.
Just a nice 2025. But honestly, I like to do different projects, like I said earlier, and it keeps me kind of motivated. And, I don't like to paint the same thing over and over. I like different things.
Yeah, that's I thought my schedule was bad. That's like I'm getting tired of listening, man. It's like, how do you keep up with it? But two things before we close. One is, if people want to see artwork or contact you or, kind of follow you, how do they do that?
For right now, our Instagram is SSMFA Studios on Instagram. It will be changing to Luxicon, but right now, for today's purpose, you can go to there and reach out to us on Instagram. Our website is luxicon.art, LUXICON.art. Or they can find me on my old website until it branches over to Luxicon, which is ssmfa.com. And we're really easy to reach.
Last question. So for our listeners, if you could tell them one thing that they should do in 2025 to improve over 2024, what would that one thing be?
Follow your passion. I think that the only reason I'm here, I could have quit a million times, and I've been asked to quit a million times when things weren't great. When you're an artist, you definitely you go through a lot more up and downs. I mean, I think everyone in life goes through them. The most important thing I've told myself, and I've told my son and anyone that listens, is just don't quit. If you believe in yourself, you just have to see it through. That's the most important thing I can ever say.
Great advice. Great advice. Well, Bruce, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. You too, John. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Leave Nothing to Chance. If you want to know more about what it takes to succeed in the network marketing space, join us again next week for another amazing episode. For additional resources and to connect with John Solleder, visit leavingnothingtochance.com. Don't forget to leave a review, and we'll see you next time.